Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to change the transmission fluid in an automatic four-wheel drive Toyota Tercel four-wheel drive wagon. Probably the same will apply for a front-wheel drive wagon. The pans, I believe, are a hair different from the fronts of the four-wheel drives, but let's go knock this out. So there's really two ways we could go about doing this job. The cheaty, easier way is to go ahead and disconnect the automatic transmission cooler lines, and we'll kind of flush it out using a milk jug. I'll show you guys that method real quick. So in order to access these cooler lines, I have to drop the skid plate. Cooler lines right here. It looks like somebody was fighting leaks, so there's a really good chance I'm really going to regret pulling this off, but, well, got to do it for the video. So what we need to do is one of these is the feed line and one of these is the return line. I'm not 100% sure actually which one's which, so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of pull this off right now and see. My assumption would be that this is going to be the feed line, so basically what I'm looking to do is take the line that pumps the transmission fluid out of the transmission and into the radiator out. And when I pull that one off, I'm going to put that one into a milk jug. We are going to turn the car on, let it run for like a few seconds until the milk jug's about half full. And that'll be about 2 quarts because 4 quarts are in a gallon. So we'll take 2 quarts of ATF, dump it into the dipstick tube hole, and we're going to kind of cycle through that back and forth. There's that clamp. Now let's go ahead and pop this all loose. Okay. Off we go. Okay, so here's what we got. We got a little wooden platform right there, just kind of raise up the drain pan. Got the line running into this gallon cooler. I kind of put everything over a little bit, so if this does miss, it's going to shoot all over the floor, but hopefully less because the drain pan's over a little ways. So you guys are going to be the first to figure out if this makes a giant mess or if this works, because I'm going to go fire the car up right now, and hopefully I didn't get the line backwards, but if I did, hopefully you get a laugh out of it, and we'll switch the lines and probably fight a leak for forever, so. So, as you see, I got lucky and picked the right line. So what we're gonna let this do is this is gonna go ahead and spray in until this is about half full. That'll be 2 quarts transmission fluid. We can go ahead and shut it off. We'll pour 2 in the fill plug and then be done. So yeah, like right about now, we'd go ahead and shut it off, add 2 quarts, do it again, and then just kind of cycle and repeat until the fluid comes out clear. You can shut this off, pour it in a jug, keep it nice and safe, and then kind of keep going back and forth. Yeah, this fluid's not looking the cleanest, so all right, we gotta kill it. So that was about a little over 3 quarts, maybe 3.5. I usually do 2 just because you don't want the transmission to run dry. Going forward, when you guys are doing this, try to shut it off at 2 quarts. Really helpful to have a friend with you, stuff like that. So you can see there's some air bubbles in there because it's probably getting some air in the trans right now. But all right, I'm gonna go ahead and put this fitting back on here, and then we'll hop underneath, get the pan ripped off next. All right, next we're gonna go ahead and drain this pan out. So remember, we did lose about a little over 3 quarts when we did the cooler. So I'm gonna go ahead and just pull the drain plug off, and then we are gonna have to reseal all of this because it's super drippy. This thing's been leaving puddles all over the ground everywhere I go. Actually, not really. It's usually only when it sits for like 2 days is usually when it drips, but I believe these are 24, just like the manuals. There we go. And out it comes. TV, which, I mean, fair, no one likes leaks, but, I mean, you can see how well that worked. I believe it's leaking right here by the shift shaft seal as well, so we might be taking that off and changing that seal out right there yet today, but we'll figure that out as we get a bit further along. Oh, yeah. Oh, great. We're gonna go ahead and inspect this pan a little bit just for funsies. Yeah, this is not a great design by Toyota in my personal opinion. You can see how much raised up that is. All this stuff in the pan would have never came out of there. So that would not work if you're doing a drain and fill just like we're doing, but if you did the cooler flush, like I initially showed you for the first kind of like, backyard mechanic method, it would rinse 99% of this stuff out because you'd basically be cycling it until the fluid comes out clean. So it'd pick up everything, but filter wouldn't really get clean. So let's go ahead and dump this stuff in the pan right here. These magnets, looks like there's 2 magnets at the bottoms of these pans. Do not be concerned if you see a bit of metal on there. That's literally what they're there for. I know seeing fuzz and stuff on there is not a fun, comfortable thing to see, but I've seen transmissions that have had 300 miles on them, 200 miles on them, that these magnets have been full of fuzz just like this, so it's not uncommon. What you don't want to see is when you rub your finger on here, you don't want to see a ton of really thick, like metallic-y oil. This has got definitely some material that's been worn out, as you can see with a little bit right there, but none of this concerns me. This is fairly thin, fairly minor. That's just debris and stuff that settles at the bottom. But a thick, giant layer of goop and really nasty looking oil that's kind of got like a really dark, like almost chunky, chocolate milky looking color to it, that's what you don't want to have. So I'm gonna go ahead and probably wipe these magnets off, clean this pan out with some probably brake clean, and then go through the potentially extremely tedious task of pulling off all this RTV. And thanks to the power of internet magic, we have one clean pan. It's got a couple scratches on the bottom. Made it bottomed out once or twice. You'll have that sometimes. So there was a magnet, I think, here and here. Or was it here and here? I don't really remember, but I don't think it really matters. These were just kind of loosely in here like that. The car, I'm going to go ahead and change the filter out. This is the filter kit I bought. I tried buying a couple of different brands of these because my goal was to get a rubber pan gasket. And this one is actually rubber. So that's good news. Alright, time to change the filter. Oh, they're real long. Let's see if these are in any different size or if they're all the same across the board. Those two are the same. No. There we go. We're starting to get free. There we go. I don't know how well you can see it, but looking inside that filter, it looks pretty clean. So probably a waste of time to change this, but I gotta go ahead and scrape all this gasket off, which is pure crust. So gonna clean this off and I'll be back in a minute. I got everything cleaned off down below. This is basically ready to go back in right now, but I decided to check the factory service manual and see what the torque spec is for this. So the torque spec is 48 inch-pounds. If you do not have one of these factory service manuals, there's a free one available on the Toyota Tercel 4-wheel drive forum. Links in the description of this video, along with every video that's related to these Tercel wagons. It's gonna be a little bit of ATF around here. I actually just brake cleaned everything around here. It's fine if there's a bit of fluids on this gasket area. Just make sure there's no other gaskets so it doesn't double up. So, again, this is 48 inch-pounds. That's 4 feet-pound of torque. You need an inch-pound, quarter-inch torque wrench for this. Not a lot of people are going to have one, so I'm going to kind of show you how I'm going to drop the bolts into the transmission pan. That's what I'm going to show you how to do. Hopefully you guys learned something about dropping bolts in transmission fluid pans, because that is my specialty. So, let's see if I drop this socket in here or not. But we're going to go around. I would encourage you not to use any electric tools unless you are very proficient and have very good trigger control, because you don't really want to damage these. Okay, that is about as snug up as that one's going to get. You kind of want to do this in like a lug nut pattern, kind of just crisscross from each other, like so. Those are all as tight as I can get them with my fingers. So now I'm going to go ahead and take a 1/4 inch ratchet, Smallest ratchet I've got, and I'm going to go ahead and just go like that. Basically, I'm doing another roughly like a turn. Not really putting any force on them. I'm basically just kind of free turning them. That one needed a little bit more yet. Snug. Snug. I wish I could describe to you how much force I'm putting on these, but it's basically nothing. So I'm literally just kind of putting this in the end of my fingers and just very, very faintly pulling pressure on this. Again, 4 foot-pounds. That's basically nothing. Just bottom them out is really all you got to do. And I'm going to put a little bit more on this one. Oh, that's good to go. So that about does this. All right, back up here. The pan torque spec is 65 inch-pounds. We're going to basically more or less do the same process. We're going to go ahead and snug them up. I do have a torque wrench that does 65 inch-pounds. So I do have a torque wrench that technically would work on this, but we might just go ahead and snug it up. And I'll make sure you notice right here, install drain plug with new gasket at 22 foot-pounds. Do not put the pan bolts at 22 foot-pounds. These bolts are even smaller than the bolts that are inside of there, the filter housing. So they are really tiny bolts. And off goes the hat. I'm going to start a couple of these, get them in a solid 3 or 4 turns so I can kind of support the weight without pulling the threads out. But I don't want to tighten these 2 bolts up real tight because the rubber gasket is not going to be very straight. And now that I only have 2 bolts in, what I can do is it allows me to manipulate the gasket a little bit. I don't know how well this will pick up, but the gasket is not quite lined up. So what I can do with this bolt now is I can kind of negotiate that gasket over a little bit until it's in line. You can also use a small screwdriver to do the same thing, but I usually just use the bolt heads unless it's way, way, way off. So now that we got this bolt in, we're going to start it and go, 3 full turns. All right, got the pan all snugged up. Same basic principle applied to this as I did to the temperatures or to the filter. I just kind of ran around and just snugged it up real quick. And next up, we're going to go ahead and throw the drain plug on. But notice that little notch right there. So Toyota is a little bit notorious for putting these notches in the early Tercel oil drain plugs, and they like to leak. I don't know if this original one was leaking here or leaking everywhere because there was so much dripping going on. So we're going to go ahead and do a little trick to make this not leak. All right. There's the drain plug. This is the washer that came off of it. Unsure if this is the original OEM one. Somebody replaced this along the way. I would assume it's been replaced at some point because of the RTV and the pan on it and everything like that. But these are a little bit notorious for leaking. Best thing I could recommend is these Dowdy washers. I don't know if these are actual technically like Dowdy brand or who it is, but I know they're referred to as Dowdy washers or bonded seal gaskets. This is just a cheap Amazon package. This is the only thing I have found that has prevented the leaks on any of my drain plugs that have been leaky in my early style Toyota drain plugs. So we're gonna go and throw one of those on there, snug that up. The torque spec on this is 22 foot-pounds, but it's just treated like a normal drain plug in my opinion. Just gonna snug her it up. Sorry to bump you guys. And there we go. Now, let's go ahead and add fluid, and then we'll move forward to the differential. Right, so now we get over here to filling it up under the maintenance section. It says dry fill capacity is 6.5 liters or 6.9 nice quarts. So, got about pretty close to 2 gallons right here of ATF. Now, the service manual does say to run Dextron 2. I'm going to run Dextron 6. It's what I've been running in this car so far. It's a little bit better of a fluid in my personal opinion. I love Valvoline too. Feel free to do with whatever you'd like. I am not going to be adding any motor coat, any Marvel Mystery Oil, any additives to this transmission. Personal opinion, automatic transmissions, I kind of just like leaving them alone. I don't like adding a bunch of weird additives to them. Lucas does have like a valve body cleaner that a lot of guys really like to run. I don't really see a need for any of that right now, so I'm not going to run anything like that in this. This car's got like 130, I think 8,000 right now on it, give or take. I think it's like 220 some thousand kilometers. I don't remember the exact number, but anyway, let's go ahead and throw 6.9 nice quarts of ATF in here. So the dipstick tube for the automatics is kind of buried underneath here, kind of hidden over here by the starter. So I'm going to take a long funnel, get that probably in enough that it's going to pop out when I'm pouring it in and spill all over the ground. My favorite. Yep, it's not all going in. Nope, I can hear it drip on the ground. I'm guessing that's from the funnel, but we'll go underneath there now that I got a little bit of fluid in it and verify that I didn't forget something. Yeah, I can hear it dripping from the drain plug area, but it looks pretty dry around the pan. I don't see any wetness really. Oh, nope, we got some dripping over going by the shift shaft seal. Let's go check this out. It's a little hard to tell, but it is leaking around here where the shifter seal goes. So, see that right there? That little seal is leaking. It's a dynamic seal for the shifter. So we're going to go ahead and pull that off and check out that shifter seal. And let's go change that thing out before we get this thing all the way full. For starters, let's go ahead and pop off this switch. Yeah, looks like that's kind of coming off pretty easily. Just needed a little bit of a turn from a wrench. This isn't the right size, but it's working, so. All right, we got this little washer right here. I'm guessing that's kind of the lock washer that holds this nut from turning off. There comes that. We have a small rubber gasket behind everything, and now there we go. Oh yeah, there's RTV all over the backside of that thing. It's gonna be a little bit hard for me to get on film, but there is a sleeve right there. That sleeve is staked. I have to remove the stake and rotate it and find a roll pin that should line up with that little hole right there and knock the roll pin out. After that's out, I should be able to slide this thing through and change that seal, which you can see someone threw some RTV on to attempt to stop it, but dynamic seals don't really work that way. So did that do anything? I can kind of see that roll pin now. All right, I knocked you guys down. I apologize about that, but where are we at on this thing? Right there. That is the roll pin. Again, it's kind of hard to see because the lighting's not the best. There's just not a ton of room in this valve body area, but there's a roll pin right there. I'm going to go ahead and just lightly tap it up, push it upward with a roll pin punch. I would not recommend using anything other than a roll pin punch to get this out. If you use a tapered punch and you damage this, you're kind of SOL. So I had to kind of just lightly tap that sleeve and get the spin over. This thing is, I think, in the park position. It's all the way back. I believe it might be. Yeah, it's all the way back, so that's basically how you can access this. I'm going to go ahead and tap this up, and then from there, we should, in theory, be able to slide this thing right on out of there. So, let's go. The roll pin is out, so I think, theoretically, this should come straight on out of here. Yep, it did. All right, looks like we got to kind of tweak it a wee bit to get it around. Now it's free. A ball just fell out. What just fell out? Yep, a check ball just fell out of there. It's probably the detent on the end of this. This is the punch I use. This is a 3/32 roll pin punch. This is the roll pin right here. Toyota does recommend we replace these every time. We'll kind of see how this thing feels before I go crazy. I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue to reuse this, but either way, we're out now. Got a little check ball that popped out of here. I'm going to do some digging, figure out exactly where that goes. But now, it's finally time to change this seal. Okay. I over myself. Out that seal came nice and easy. Yeah, this thing is super dry. Get ready, seal is in. Now that we got the seal installed, I have to get that detent spring and ball, I don't know how well this is gonna pick up, right above this parking pole over here. So this is the parking pole, and up top, at the very, very top right there, there's a spring and a detent ball that kind of popped out. Am I spinning? Yep, there we go, right there. I'm gonna kind of circle it. I'm going to kind of pry this to the side a little bit, push the spring up first, then push the detent ball in and try and kind of pop it backwards. And after that, I can slide the rod in place, and we should, in theory, be done. So hopefully this works out okay. I don't think it's going to go on video very well, but I'll give it a shot. Later, linkage is back in, new shift shaft seal. I got the roll pin back in. I ordered a new outer sleeve for this because the factory service manual does recommend you replace this every time, but it's not going to be in for like 2 more weeks. I'm going to go ahead and just rotate and restake it. I don't think that roll pin's going to fall out. That roll pin's in there pretty tight, so I'm not overly concerned about it, but the factory service manual does encourage you to replace that. I only found it for $3. Shipping was $20 because it's coming from the United Arab Emirates, so not too bad, but anyway, it's time to get this done. All right, she hasn't started in the better part of 2 weeks, but we'll see how she does. I need to get it through all the gears. Do we have wheel spinach? Wheel spinach! Neutral, drive, I heard it engage, wheels are spinning, I can hear them. Force it to second, force it to first. So that should have moved the fluid all through the valve body pretty well. I'm gonna tap the brakes, make sure the wheels aren't turning before it goes to the park. So, in theory, it should be pretty good. We'll need to wait for it to warm up a little bit, check the fluids level, but underneath the car, we are leak free as of right now. We'll see what happens after a few days, but I think we're gonna be okay. So last but certainly not least is checking the differential fluid. Now, this transmission does not share fluid with the front differential. The fill plug is right there. You can go ahead and pop that out and check the fluid level. Make sure your axle shaft seals are not leaking. It's very unlikely the front differential cover itself is leaking, but if somebody's pulled it off in the past, there's a chance. There's the drain plug right there. And yeah, fill plug right there. It takes gear oil. The capacity, I'll chart it down right here on the screen. I did change this differential fluid about 2 months ago. That's probably gonna wrap it up for me for this video. Appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you can maintain that transmission in your 4-wheel drive automatic Toyota Tercel wagon. Sometime soon, she's getting an automatic transmission yanked out of here, and I'm putting a wiggle in here. Got a transmission for her right here, and a couple other parts. Lots of stuff coming for this Carib yet. I'm super excited and I can't wait to share it all with you, but first things first, we got a bunch of other projects to get dialed in first. So thanks a ton for watching. Catch you guys at the next one. Adios.